Hello everyone, very good morning. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Apologies for the 5 minutes delay in this session. A very warm welcome to the Hindu news analysis session with me. I am Soumya, and like every day, let's together analyze the UPSC relevant articles, all exam relevant articles from the Hindu newspaper for today. And today is 9th October 2025. Okay, so let us quickly look at which articles are crucial for the UPSC exam here. And for today's session, I have picked about 6 articles for you. Plus, there are one or two that we will talk about in addition to these. And the first two articles are coming from the editorial page. We always start from the editorial because these are the lengthy articles. Besides, they are important for UPSC mains. A very good morning. As though Purnami, Sudesh, and as I wait for all the other aspirants to keep joining us, let me quickly now start with the first article for the day. And as I said, this is page number 6, the editorial page for you. Okay. The article says the danger of an unchecked pre-crime framework. I hope I'm audible and visible to everyone. If there's anybody who's experiencing any problem, then please do let me know in the live comment box. I hope I'm audible and visible to each one of you. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one now. And the first article is about how in India there is a constitutional provision called preventive detention. Preventive detention means without a crime being done, without an offense being made, if you keep somebody in detention, in the jail, assuming that in future an action taken by that person could threaten public order, security, national integrity, then that is called preventive detention. This is primarily a law that was made in India to be used only in the case of emergencies. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you for confirming, Purnami. So, this was a law that was made only as an exceptional law, only to be used in the case of dire emergency. It was not supposed to be used as a routine measure, but only as an extraordinary step. But today, unfortunately, it has become a powerful tool in the hands of political parties. It has become a very powerful weapon in the hands of the executive. So it's a weapon that is being used by the executive authorities in India to take action against anybody who criticizes the government, anybody who is saying something that may not be acceptable to a certain segment of population. This kind of a behavior completely defeats the purpose of preventive detention. It is a very special law. It is a very strong law. Detaining somebody in jail without a proven crime. It is a very strong provision. The bigger argument is that it is completely against the constitutional rights of equality, freedom, right to free speech and expression, the right to life and liberty. It defeats all these fundamental rights because it is a very exceptional, a very extraordinary decision that has been given in the Constitution. It was never meant to be used casually. It was never meant to be used as a routine method. As I said, it is only to be used in the case of dire emergency and extraordinary situation. Article is saying the only problem is that today the government is misusing that. A very good morning, Vikash, aspirant, and Dipesh. So happy to see you, dear. Okay, so therefore, this article is rooted in GS paper 2. If you do a topic mapping, this is polity and governance. Because we are talking about the constitutional provision of preventive detention and how, as a law, given within Article 22 of the Indian Constitution, it has created a Bermuda Triangle. You might have heard about the Bermuda Triangle, the area of mystery in which all the ships get disappeared. Aeroplanes also get drawn to it, and then all these vessels just disappear. It is a mystery still, right? Mostly. So similarly, even in our constitution, Article 22 and whatever it talks about preventive detention is like a Bermuda Triangle. Because as soon as Article 22 is invoked, all the other articles like right to equality, right to freedom, right to free speech and expression, right to life and liberty, all of those disappear. So therefore, this has been called as a Bermuda Triangle. Very good morning. Limayu, very good morning. Okay, so that's the article here, GS paper 2 for you. Let's start the key agenda of the article. Well, the article says Indian constitution is rooted in equality. We all understand that there are Article 14 that says there is a right to equality. All Indian citizens, irrespective of their caste, class, their gender, place of birth, race, religion, they are equal in the eyes of law. So, Article 14 is the fountainhead of equality in India. Then, of course, you have Article 15 and Article 16, which also say that when it comes to employment, government job and opportunities, education, there is complete equality in the country. Nobody can be denied access to public employment and education on the basis of their community, class, language, gender, anything. Then comes another article, that is Article 19. This is right to freedom. This gives you not only the right to free speech and expression, Article 19 1A, but it also gives you the right to reside and settle anywhere in India, to form cooperatives, peaceful unions, associations, to do any job that you want to do, to practice any occupation that you think you should. You can move anywhere across India. So it is a very comprehensive article on freedom. Then comes Article 21, the rockbed of equality in India, because Article 21 is right to life and liberty. In India, people have a right to save and defend their life. They have a right to dignity and freedom. So Article 21 is the backbone of dignity, life, independence for all Indian citizens. So, therefore, all these articles show that as a country, we are committed towards equality, dignity, and respect to every citizen. We do not discriminate. But then there is another article of the Constitution. This is Article 22. Within Article 22, if we talk about clauses, clause number 3 to clause number 7 of the Article 22 are the Bermuda Triangle of the Indian Constitution. Why are they Bermuda Triangle? Because whenever these articles are used, invoked, it always creates inequality. It always creates a lack of transparency. As soon as it comes to Article 22, all other fundamental rights get vanished. It's like a black hole. It's like a Bermuda Triangle of the Constitution. Because this article is the one that talks about preventive detention in India. So for your GS paper 2, what is preventive detention? When you detain a person, not for what they have done already, but for what they might do in future. It is based on an assumption that an individual can do an action that may offend India's sovereignty, internal security, public morality, public order and law. On the basis of these supposed crimes, expected actions, you detain somebody in the jail. All these provisions are covered under preventive detention, Article 22, Clause 3 to Article 22, Clause 7. Hence, they constitutionalize, they legalize preventive detention in India. They give an institutional backing to preventive detention in our country. But there is a massive problem here. The problem is of misunderstanding and abuse by the government. For example, if you look at Article 22, Clause number 1 and Clause number 2, both these clauses say that when it comes to the right of a person, the rights of a person who has been arrested under any ordinary criminal law, then that individual should be informed of the charges that are put on him. He should know why is he in jail. Second, he should have the right to consult a lawyer. Third, definitely he has to be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours of the arrest. Now, this right is protected by a writ of Indian Constitution called habeas corpus. Article 32, right to constitutional remedies. Every individual arrested has to be produced before a magistrate within 24 hours. All these are confirmed by Article 22, Clause 1 and Clause 2. This is good. The problem comes when we talk about Article 22, Clause 3 to Clause 7. These are more draconian. These are more dangerous and strict in nature. These look like colonial British era laws. Why? Because from Article 22, Clause 3 to Clause 7, all the rights of a person who is under arrest are taken away. Article 22, Clause 3. Clause 3 says there is no need for a person to be produced before the magistrate. There is no need for this person to consult a lawyer. It overrides the provisions of Article 1 and 2 in certain circumstances. Similarly, there is Clause 4. Clause 4 of Article 22 says maximum period to which you can detain an individual is 3 months until it is extended. Until it is extended after a review done by advisory board of judges. So maximum period of detention should be 3 months under 22, Article 22, Clause 4. It can be increased, definitely, can be extended, it can extend. Only when this decision is taken by an advisory board of judges. Okay, so this is what clause number 4 says. Now, as we proceed further, there is Article 22, clause number 5. This is even more strict and dangerous because clause number 5 then says that a person who has been detained under preventive detention must be told the grounds on which the person has been detained. But if the matter is regarding India's security, India's national sovereignty, the matter of internal peace, law, and order, then sometimes the government will not disclose. The government will not tell the person, why have you been arrested? If it goes against public interest, then the government will not tell the person that this is the reason you have been arrested. Particularly if it's a case of a terror attack, if it's a case of a leakage of a data on national security, if it is a case of inciting mob violence that has led to a death of many people. In such cases, the government may not choose to disclose. So it is an exception. Because otherwise, clause number 1 and 2 say you have to tell the person why have you been arrested. But under clause number 5 of Article 22, if the matter is very serious, if it is a matter that needs secrecy, it's about national security, then perhaps the government will not even disclose why have you been arrested. Therefore, it completely overrides the clauses 1 and clause 2. Similarly, when you talk about clause number 7 of Article 22, it says Parliament by passing a law can extend the detention period beyond 3 months also, or create a special category which is completely exempted from advisory board of judges. That means you can extend detention even without the consultation of advisory board of judges. So Article 22 clause 7 overrides Article 22 clause 4 because clause 4 said maximum period of detention is 3 months. If you want to extend further, the decision should be taken by advisory board of judges. But clause number 7 says, if it is a special situation, if the danger is too much, then Parliament can pass a law and extend the period of detention without the need to consult with advisory board for any kind of review. So therefore, all these provisions of Article 22, especially 3, 4, 5 and 7, they are very, very strict in nature. They are dehumanizing sometimes. They do not give the detainee any right to know why has he been arrested, any right to consult a lawyer, any right to be produced before a magistrate. It violates habeas corpus in special circumstances. Plus, the Parliament has unlimited powers under Clause 7 to keep on extending the detention period without consulting any advisory board of judges. Article in the newspaper, this article is asking a question. All these provisions of Article 22, by their nature, are they not defeating the purpose of Article 21 of the Constitution? That is the heart and soul of Indian Constitution, because it talks about life and liberty, dignity, independence. Are we not taking away all the fundamental rights under Article 21 when it comes to various provisions of Article 22? Now, the Supreme Court has also in the past given some such statements. For example, there was a jurisdiction by the Supreme Court. It was known as A.K. Gopalan. A.K. Gopalan versus the state of Madras 1950. Under this very famous Supreme Court's jurisdiction, court upheld preventive detention. Supreme Court supported preventive detention under Preventive Detention Act PDA, Preventive Detention Act 1950, and said that Articles 19, 21, 22 are not to be mixed up with each other. There is no logic in saying that Article 22 is dehumanizing. It is not valid because it takes away all the rights given under 21, 19, 14, 16. There is no logic in saying that. While this group of articles, the first group, provides you equality and freedom and fundamental rights. But the second group of articles, all the clauses in Article 22 from clause 1 to clause 7, are meant to be used in exceptional cases and unique situations. They are not to be enacted routinely. And therefore, the Supreme Court said in the A.K. Gopalan versus State of Madras 1950 that preventive detention should be used, it can be used if situation demands such. And it is totally valid. But at the same time, recently, there was another case in 2023. This was known as S.K. Nazneen. S.K. Nazneen versus State of Telangana case. This is 2023, so I will just quickly write down S.K. Nazneen versus State of Telangana. Here the Supreme Court has said that preventive detention is unjustified. It is not valid if the crime committed by a person was against few people, if it was against an individual. Hence, you can only use preventive detention in case where there has been an attack on national security, sovereignty, public law and order. Just any ordinary civil problem or any ordinary crime should not be used as a plea to invoke preventive detention. So this was the decision of the Supreme Court that preventive detention is a rare situation and it should only be used when the crime committed is of public nature. It is against public law and order. Until this happens, you should not take preventive detention as a routine measure. At the same time, during 1982, another very important court case had happened. It was called A.K. Roy versus Union of India case. In that case also, Supreme Court had said that we can give somebody preventive detention if the situation demands like that. And there is no need to confuse this with Article 14, 21 or 19. They are very different and this is very different. This has an emergency provision and this should not be confused with freedom, liberty, equality and so on. So this is the confusion going on right now. Who decides whether a law is serious enough to invoke preventive detention? Because there is ambiguity in understanding, various state governments have kept on misusing the law. For example, there is a particular law in Kerala. It is known as Kappa. Okay, this has been blamed by people that it is used too often by the Kerala government to detain anybody on the charges of terror, on the charges of a presumed attack to public order and security. But that is not the valid solution. Preventive detention has to be seen like an emergency. After all, it is the black hole. It is the Bermuda Triangle of the Constitution. 22 article, clause 1 to clause 7. These are very strict, very dehumanizing. You can only use it if the crime that is committed is of public nature. That's the problem here. Now then in 2021, the Supreme Court heard another important case. This was Banka Sneha. You can also say Sneha Banka versus the State of Telangana case. Here the Supreme Court said that preventive detention is an exception. It will always be an exception and it will only be used in rare to rarest circumstances because India upholds Article 21, the right to life and freedom. So when should it be used is the question we are asking. In which situation should it be used? Clearly, as per the various jurisdictions of the Supreme Court, there are some things that are coming out. One, In case there is a disturbance to the life of individuals, to a small group of people, then you cannot use preventive detention. You cannot use preventive detention for every communal violence, for every mob violence, for every attack that is happening between two groups of people, or one person who is attacking or committing a crime. That is in the nature of crime, and that is to be dealt separately by the IPC, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, CRPC. That has nothing to do with preventive detention. You can only use preventive detention, Article 22, Clause 1 to Clause 7, in case the crime that has been done is impacting public security. It is impacting law and order in the state or in the country at large, when it is being done against the government, or in case where large community is suffering because of an action taken by someone. If it is posing a danger to India's national interest, India's respect, dignity, sovereignty, then you can use preventive detention. Otherwise, you cannot do that. You cannot keep misusing it in the name of National Security Act, in the name of laws like Kerala's Kappa Act. You cannot do that. Okay? So, therefore, this article, the author is saying that Article 22 that started from the times of British era. Long back, it was enacted by the British in 1818 to be used to suppress all Indians who were anti-British Raj. Today, there is no need to use it so commonly. Let us just reserve it for some special situations. After all, Article 21 is not only the black hole, it is not only the Bermuda Triangle, but it is also a Janus-faced law. And what is a Janus-faced law? A two-faced law. A two-faced law because on the one hand, within Article 22, Clause 1 and Clause 2 give you various fundamental rights to call a lawyer, to consult a magistrate, to know why have you been arrested. But at the same time, clauses number 3 to 7 of the same Article 22 prohibit you from doing that. Creates exceptions where you can be detained for a longer time without judge consultation, takes away your right to consult a magistrate or a lawyer, also doesn't allow you to know why have you been arrested. So it's a two-faced law clearly. It's very difficult to interpret it in the modern times. That delicate balance is important, otherwise the government will keep on misusing that. And then there is no logic. Because then it starts defeating right to equality, Article 14, right to public employment, education, 15, 16, right to freedom, Article 19, right to free speech and expression, Article 19, 1A, and right to life and liberty, Article 21. Of course, right, Article 32 also, right to constitutional remedies. Then it defeats all of that. Okay, very good morning, Eric and Mr. SM. Very good morning. Absolutely, very well said, Vikash. Very well observed. Yes, it was recently used under NSA 1980 to arrest Sonam Wangchuk when the Ladakh protest was going on. Absolutely, and that's why people are rising up against that. That is why this article is here. Because of late, the people are feeling that the government uses preventive detention even in situations where it does not have to be used. So you cannot keep on arresting people arbitrarily, highlighting Article 22. It doesn't make any sense at all, right? Because then you are defeating the right to equality and right to free speech and expression. Let's understand that. Very good morning. Levino, that's so sweet of you, dear. You're most welcome. Question: with reference to constitutional provisions governing preventive detention in India, consider the following statements. 1. The power to make laws for preventive detention is provided under both union and state lists. Now, this is a tricky statement. If you have heard the discussion carefully, you will know the answer. Very tricky statement. Dipesh, as always, and Vikash being the first ones to answer. The answer is there. Very good morning, Rishi, after a long time, dear. I hope you're doing good. Great to see you. Okay, the first is a tricky one. That preventive detention comes under both union list and state list in the 7th schedule of the Constitution. Second, Article 22, Clause 3 of the Constitution allows preventive detention even though it stops, restricts certain fundamental rights like Article 19, the right to freedom, and Article 21, the right to life and liberty. 3. The maximum period for which a person can be detained under preventive detention laws made by the Parliament cannot increase exceed 6 months under any circumstances. Again, tricky one. D. 4. Preventive detention laws were initially made in the Constitution as an exception in Part 3 during the framing of the Constitution itself. This is also slightly tricky. It's a tough question today. Which of the following statements are correct? Okay, so Dipesh, Vikash, Rishi. Very few people have answered today. I agree, it's a tricky question. Okay, let's break it down. Everyone who has answered say that the answer is A here. Dipesh, Vikash, and Rishi all say that the answer is A. Would anybody else want to try? Yes? See, the first statement is valid. Why? Because I was discussing in the article that you cannot use preventive detention under excuses like National Security Act or Kerala's Act Kappa. Correct? Kerala's Detention Act. That means state governments and the central government both can enact laws when it comes to preventive detention. And which schedule of the Constitution deals with division of power between center, states and concurrent list? Schedule 7. So first statement is absolutely valid. Okay, Purnamani is also saying it's A. Great. So the first statement is correct here, which means B cannot be the answer. Let's move on to the second one now. Second says, 22 Article Clause 3 of the Constitution says, yes, we can give preventive detention. Although, while you give preventive detention, you also snatch or take away somebody's fundamental right. Why? What does Article 22 Clause 3 say? I discussed with you. Clause 3 says, there is no need for a person to be produced before magistrate. There is no need for the person to consult a lawyer in special circumstances. So definitely it is snatching away your fundamental right. When you cannot consult a lawyer, when you cannot be produced before a magistrate, definitely it is defeating your Article 19, right to freedom. Definitely it is defeating Article right to life and liberty. Or also it is defeating Article 32, constitutional remedies, under which any Indian citizen, if their fundamental right is being taken away, they can directly go and complain to the Supreme Court. This writ is habeas corpus. You have to produce the body of the arrested individual within 24 hours to the magistrate. But yes, Article 22 is an exception. Clause 3 says you don't have to sometimes. Absolutely correct. Now, if 1 and second statement are correct, then C also cannot be the right answer. Now, A and D. Now, look at 3. 3 is confusing. Statement number 3 is saying maximum period for which you can detain a person is 6 months under a law made by the parliament, but that's not true. Why is that not true? Because we know that usually if you arrest an individual under preventive detention, you can do that for a maximum period of 3 months only 3 months. And if you want to exceed that, then you have to take the advice from Advisory Board of Judges. But there is a clause called Article 22 subclause 5. This says that an individual in special circumstances perhaps will not even be told why has the person been arrested if the matter is a very secret matter. And then there is clause number 7 which clearly says Parliament can pass a law that can extend the detention under preventive detention for a much longer period of time without the consultation of Advisory Board of Judges. So which means it is incorrect. Maximum period is not 6 months clearly. It can exceed that, provided the Parliament passes a law. In that case, there will be no need to consult with the Advisory Judges Board. So when 3 is wrong, then let's look at 4. Preventive detention was in the original constitution. Yes, it was. And where was it? It was in the Bengal Regulation 3 part of the 1818 Act by the British. Originally, it was a part of the constitution. Because from the British times itself, we have something called preventive detention. The British used to use it against Indian freedom fighters, sedition law. Today it is being used by the Indian government to punish people who are involved in the acts of terror, cross-border arms smuggling, separatist movements, anti-national activities. That's the purpose. But as Vikash said, the most interesting thing is that today the argument is happening because you cannot randomly arrest people by saying that we are arresting them under National Security Act. or under Article 22 preventive detention, like what has happened in the case of Ladakh protest with Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. You can't do that. Because if you do that, you are defeating the purpose of other fundamental rights, right to life and liberty, right to freedom. That's why it's a controversy. Very well answered. A is the valid answer indeed. Excellent. Well done, everyone here. Okay. Well done. Very good morning, Ritika. Yes, absolutely. Article 19 and 21 are also restricted, absolutely, in an area which comes under Armed Forces Special Power Act. Like right now, certain areas of Manipur, certain areas of Kashmir, certain areas of Arunachal. It is true. That time you can be detained under preventive detention, because that time army has absolute power. Nobody can question the army for killing, shooting on sight, or detaining an individual. Absolutely, it's allowed. Now, the next article, once again, page number 6, editorial article. We are talking about India UK relationship, but this is not a very new thing. This is something that you and I have been talking about all through September. We all know very nicely that India and UK have signed a free trade agreement. Many times we have discussed GS paper 2 international relationships, India UK ties, foreign exchange, free trade agreement. India and UK have signed a free trade agreement. Plus, India and UK have also signed for an India-UK Vision 2035. This is a 10-year roadmap to revive the relationship between both the countries. Trade, AI, green energy, people-to-people migration, cultural exchange will be the agenda till 2035. It was once again in the news just 2 days before when I was discussing with you exercise Konkan. Under India-UK Vision 2035, there is an exercise going on in the Malabar coast in India. Exercise Konkan. Very good, Vikash. Yes. It is a part of this vision. Similarly, I told you there is another exercise Ajay Warrior. Military. Exercise Indradhanush. Air Forces of India and UK. All these exercises are a part of India-UK 2035 agenda. It's a 10-year relationship future both the countries have together created for one another. This article is only saying why is this vision important? How will it help the UK and how will it help the India? Very good, Dipesh. Yes, exercise Conquer. So the article is saying in July 2025, new developments started taking place. Yes, Ajay Warrior and Indradhanush. Very good, very good. Very good, Vikash. Very good, Rishi. Yes, dear, that's the answer. Now, if next year in the prelims, if a question comes about Ajay Warrior, Indradhanush, Konkan, will you know it is India and UK? Otherwise, I will remind you of all these sessions. And if the question comes on Malabar, exercise Malabar, then nobody should confuse with Konkan. Malabar is with India and that day Dipesh had told us Quad. Nobody should forget that. Okay. So now in July 2025, India and UK signed a free trade agreement. This is known as the CETA, C-E-T-A. What is CETA? Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA. It is a landmark trade pact between both the countries. Why is it a landmark trade pact? Now, what if next year in the mains you get a question like that in GS paper 2 IR? That the CETA signed between India and UK, Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, is a landmark agreement between the two countries. And what will you write? Why is it a landmark agreement? It is a landmark agreement because for the first time, agenda is not only economic, but the agenda is political, strategic, climate, AI. All these agendas are a part of the CETA, India-UK Vision 2035. That's why it's a landmark agreement. Cannot forget that. Because this is much more than trade. It is about a whole partnership. Now, I don't know if you already have studied economics for GS paper 3 or are you still taking the classes, that I don't know. But if you have studied globalization as a part of GS paper 1 and as a part of GS paper 3, for those who have studied globalization, you may have heard two broad terms. These are called deep integration and shallow integration. Deep integration, shallow integration. There are certain countries who make a trade agreement between each other. These are shallow agreements because they are only about free trade agreement. There is no other relationship. For example, India-China. Today, India-China have a trade pact, but that's just about trade. Similarly, ASEAN, BIMSTEC. So many free trade agreements are there. India also has them. But they are just about trade. There is no other deep thing here. But then there is something called deep integration. This is much more than trade. A very good example could be European Union. The European Union countries are not only sharing free trade with each other, no custom duty, no import duty, no tariff, no visa fee, but they are also integrated. They use the same medical protocols, same climate protocol, same kind of emission testing norms, same kind of standards on various goods and items, plus cultural exchange. They support each other's economy. That's called a deep integration. Various groups across the world under globalization can either be on the format of shallow integration or on the format of deep integration. So tomorrow, if you get a question in UPSC Mains 2026, then remember today we discussed about it. That this new partnership between India and UK, CETA, Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, is not only a shallow integration. It is a landmark agreement because for the first time it is a deep integration. It is beyond economic relationship. It is about strong diaspora link. It is about strong climate resilient technology, sharing AI, defense, maritime technology. All that is the purpose behind this CETA agreement. Why does India need a deep integration with UK today? The biggest question. Let me quickly tell you. Reason number one, India needs new countries. UK also needs new countries. Why? India has experienced a tariff imposed by America 50%. And US has not done much to cancel that tariff. India is also experiencing an increase in H-1B visa fees. 70% of H-1B visa is used by Indian workers. India knows that Indian exports are not now successful in American market. $48 billion worth exports today are suffering because they do not have the same selling power in America's market because of high tariff. America is not happy by Indians taking away American jobs. India is losing a key export market. Similarly, China, with India and China, there are border disputes. There is a lack of clarity on the border issue. India cannot trust China blindly. Markets like Japan and South Korea are small in number. They do not have that much customer. Similarly, South Asia, they are small markets. Consumer base is not very high. Plus, these are developing countries. They do not have purchasing power for sectors like gems and jewelry, textile and carpet. These are expensive goods. After US, what is the option that we have? There are two options. One is European Union market, other is UK market. So for India, this partnership agreement is an economic necessity. We need the markets of UK to send our expensive export goods. Because this export sector also generates employment in India. Second, why India needs UK for this partnership? Because India and UK are together trying to enhance their relationship in Indo-Pacific area, dominated by Chinese control. India and UK are trying to conduct exercises like CONCON in order to make sure that their presence is strong in the Indo-Pacific, which otherwise is constantly under the threat of Chinese occupation. Third, for UK it is a benefit also because after United Kingdom broke away from the EU, if you know, have you heard about the word Brexit? What is Brexit? Anybody? Brexit, the exit of Britain from EU. Earlier, UK was a part of European Union. Which year did it happen? Can anybody tell me? Very good morning, Kartike. When did this happen? When did the UK come out of European Union? The word for it is called Brexit, the exit of UK. Yes, Kartike. This is English, my dear. Okay. Yes, have you heard of Brexit? UK came out of European Union. Which was the year? Can anybody tell me? That is called Brexit, the exit of UK from EU. Yes, the exit of Britain. Correct. Brexit. Yes, Vikash. Yes, Dipesh. After that, for UK also, it has been a problematic journey. It has been about economic loss. It has been about a loss of trade partnerships. Today, UK also wants better markets like India. India is a market full of young people. UK knows. Indian market can also increase its demand by huge margins. So it is a win-win situation. And that's why it's a landmark agreement. Driven by the necessity of Indo-Pacific, anti-US, both the countries are for the first time trying to create a deep integration, not a shallow integration called CETA. Okay, so what is the CETA all about? The CETA is about tariff free trade in various goods and services. It is about investment. It is about cooperation in mobility of professionals in India and UK, educational exchange program as university, and the biggest challenge, standards harmonization. Let me explain this to you. Standard harmonization. What is this? If anybody who is taking the classes regularly, yes, you are right, but the procedures had started happening long back. And then finally it happened as you're saying. Yes, absolutely, Rishi. That's also correct. Well done. So, what is standard harmonization? A key agenda under CETA, Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, is standard harmonization. If you remember last month, I told you, as India and UK are signing the free trade agreement, there is a problem right now that in UK they follow very strict environmental protocols. UK government said if any product comes to UK from India, we will welcome that. But if that product has been made by any such process that involves higher carbon emission, if the carbon footprint of any product coming from India is high, then we will put additional tax on it. And we cannot compromise on that, sorry. Because in EU and in UK, environmental standards are very strict. Food standards are also very strict. For example, from India, you send a biscuit to UK and then you see. Perhaps in India, we are consuming the same biscuit, but in UK, in EU, it will undergo 50,000 tests. They will not tolerate any trace extra of food additive, color, sugar, nothing. They don't allow. They are very strict with health and environmental protocol. That is where Indian products start having a problem because many of the standards don't match. In India, we have lower standards when it comes to ecology and health. In UK and Europe, they have very strict standards. So, one key agenda of CETA is to also work towards harmonizing, creating similar standard between both the countries. Because if we do not do that, then Indian products will again face a tax in UK and exporters will not get enough income. Right? So what is the benefit for India? Nothing. So that's why both the countries now will also work about harmonizing their standards across various goods and services. It also tries to increase the bilateral trade by 2030. Across which sectors will UK benefit? Now, UK will benefit because India is a key market of Scotch whisky. Scotch whisky from UK. At the same time, India is also a great market for various pharma products from UK. India is a great market of automobiles and machinery from UK. And what about India? From India, we lead when it comes to gems and jewelry, when it comes to agri products, when it comes to generic pharma. So India also leads. For both the countries, it's a benefit. Today, if you talk about the data, let me quickly show you the data. You will be impressed by seeing the data. The bilateral trade between India and UK is $35 billion right now. Talking about UK contributes to 5% of the total foreign direct investment that India receives. And that's a lot. 5% of all. Now, whether it is about textile, agri-good, as you're saying, Dipesh, engines, yes. UK is a great market for India. We want a target that by 2030, this bilateral trade of today, $35 billion should double. Double itself, $70 billion. So if you get a question in next year mains about India-UK FTA, CETA, Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, I really expect that everybody will talk about deep integration. How for the first time they are creating a deep integration. You should know the reason also why. I have explained already. If still there is a doubt, I will make a separate video. You need to let me know. You have to discuss how currently in 2025, the trade is $35 billion. By 2030, the target is to make it $70 billion. India has about 1.8 million Indians who are living in UK right now. They have a strong impact on economy and politics in UK. Okay. Similarly, talking about defense, India is a great importer of US defense equipment. And for UK, as I said, UK receives, as Dipesh is saying, engines. Yes, automobiles also. Many of them, automobile engines, technology, parts, they all go from India to UK. It's a good market. There are some challenges ahead. And what are these challenges? The challenges are that standardization, how to create uniform standards, that's one challenge. Second, the CETA is still being legislated in both the countries. It has finally not passed right now. There are many things to solve, such as data privacy laws. UK is very strict with its data protection. IP. IP protection, again, very important. Intellectual property rights. Similarly, as I said, standardization of products. Labor unions, local industries in the UK, they may not be happy with this arrangement. They have to be convinced. They may fear losing competition to Indian products. And at the same time, for India, it is a very key thing because India is now trying to balance US. The mood swings and the tantrums coming from US are a major problem. Then India is trying to balance the China equation. Then India is trying to balance the Saudi Pakistan equation. And today, once again, India is trying its best to open up the UK market so that our exporters do not suffer. If the drill is successfully implemented, it will become a great addition to the already existing FTAs, free trade agreements that India has with many EU countries, especially the TEPA that we have spoken about. Do you remember TEPA? 10 days before we had spoken about TEPA. What is TEPA? India has signed a special free trade agreement with 4 countries of EU. Which were these countries? Switzerland? Anybody remembers? Which else? Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and which 2 other ones were there? Switzerland, Liechtenstein, which 2 others were there? With which India had signed the TEPA? With which countries? Yes, absolutely. With the EFTA countries, Dipesh. Absolutely. So if this deal is successful, it will also become a great complement. It will become a great add-on to the existing free trade agreement with EU, with EFTA. Very good. EFTA countries, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Norway, Iceland. Okay? All these are European countries, my dear. These are European nations. Okay? So Norway and Iceland. These 4 countries, India has specially signed a pact with. So let's see what happens to the future of the deal. If it passes, it will be a great relationship between UK and India. AI, quantum computing, India-UK Vision 2035, social security protocols, harmonization of standards, education, mobility, all of these are under consideration. Yes, aspirant, Norway, Switzerland, Liechtenstein and Iceland. Keep remembering. If you don't remember, create a small acronym for that. You can say S, Switzerland, Iceland, Norway, Liechtenstein, NISL. We can create a small acronym. Question, Vikash has answered already. With reference to the recent India-UK Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, CETA, look at the following statements. 1. The agreement aims to double the bilateral trade by 2030 by reducing tariffs and promoting investment. Very good, Dipesh. Very good, Vikash. Second, under the accompanying Double Contributions Convention, I will explain this. Double Contributions Convention, Indian professionals working in the UK will now be exempted from social security contributions in both the countries for a limited period. Now, this is one thing I need to explain. As we are talking about India-UK partnership, Vision 2035, a key aspect of that is that both countries have decided to create a double contribution convention, DCC. What is that? The purpose is that Indian professionals do not have to pay social security fees 2 times. One in India and then one in UK. They don't have to pay it twice. So therefore, both the countries will create an agreement through which only once they have to pay, either in India or the UK. That double tax will not happen. Okay. Third, the Technology Security Initiative, launched under CETA, focuses on cooperation in AI, quantum computing, semiconductor, critical minerals. Absolutely right. Dipesh, Vikash, Rishi. Well done. D is the answer. All these are correct. Just remember 2, 3 things and the double contribution convention. Next year, I can guarantee there is going to be a question in the mains about India-UK relationship. Definitely, we will have on India-US also tariff, but UK is the most highlighted one, the most important. Next article, page number 7. Let's quickly finish it. The verdict that misses the fine print. We are talking about GS paper 3 here. Climate mitigation, environmental impact assessment. The article is saying in India right now, there is a big debate that's going on. The debate is that there are certain infrastructural buildings, projects, constructions that are first created without taking any environmental clearance. They are already created. There is no EIA done. There is no environmental impact assessment that's done. Although it is mandatory to take the permission and get the license, but most buildings are created by giving bribe to the government. Once they are created, after that they try to do a post-construction EIA. They pay the bribe, they pay the fine, and they get the license. Today the debate is this a good thing to do? Is there a logic in first letting the buildings be made and then run them through an environmental impact assessment? Or should we stop this practice and make it mandatory that any building before getting constructed needs to get a license and a permission from the concerned authorities? But the challenge is what to do with those buildings that have already been created. Can we break them today? If we break them, will it not lead to more pollution and wastage of resource? If we do not break them and let them take the license later, why will anybody follow the law? It will become a protocol that first do what you want and then try to take the license. That's the key thing that the article is pointing towards. Very well answered for the previous one. Kojomba, Kushwi. Yeah, both of you are correct. That's correct. So what is the problem? The Supreme Court recently passed a judgment saying that no building will be allowed to take retrospective environmental clearance post facto. Means you have already been created and after that you are coming and taking the license. That's not good. Supreme Court has said it is wrong. It will not be allowed. If a project like a factory, highway, building, it has been constructed without earlier taking environmental clearance by the Environmental Impact Assessment Act 2006, it will not be considered legal. You cannot take the license later on. There is no scope in India for post facto or retrospective taking of clearance. But now it is a problematic thing because what to do with so many buildings that are already being created, that are already existing? Can we do anything about them? Ideally in India, we believe in the logic polluter pays. The person who is responsible for the production of the building, construction of the building, should be liable for the carbon footprint. Naturally, why will the customer suffer? It is the producer that should suffer. Even if you talk about solid waste and plastic waste management rules of 2016, you will see in India we believe in extended producer responsibility. The person who manufactures will have to pay the price. It is not consumer's mistake. It is a good thing that the Supreme Court is saying that if a building is already made without taking a license, it will be considered illegal. You have to take a prior approval under the Environmental Impact Assessment Notification 2006. If you do not do that, you are illegal. There is no right for your building to exist. But the problem continues. The problem is that there are certain category of buildings like industrial factories, waste processing plants, mining units. All of these have to take EC clearance before they start. But once they are already functioning and running, they are contributing to public welfare. Waste disposal plants are taking care of waste clearance. Mining sectors are giving jobs to so many people. Commercial buildings like railway warehouses, industrial factories, they are creating important products. Now that they have been created, what to do with them? Can we impose a double fine on them? Should we dismantle them? Should we take away their license? And what if we do that? Who will suffer with the job loss? Who will pay the price for demolition? Is it not a waste of material, space, and resource? That's the question we are facing today. What to do with those? All these have applied for post facto regularization. They were working for 10, 20 years. Today, as the government is becoming strict, they are asking for a license. What to do with them? Who will decide that? In 2013, there was a case, a very important court case, SP Muthuraman versus Union of India case. Here, the National Green Tribunal said that for some projects, you cannot selectively allow post facto regularization. It will set a very bad example for people. If you give some companies regularization approval later on, it will give a very bad message to society that you can break the law and later the government will take care of you. That is, should not be the protocol. In 2025, there was another case called Van Shakti versus Union of India. Here, the Supreme Court said that no project, no project should be cleared if it did not take prior approval, which means later on, retrospectively, post facto regularization is illegal. So in both the cases, it is very clear that Supreme Court does not want to give permission at a later date. Why? Because in India, environmental protection and the right to breathe clean air is a fundamental right. Ever since the debate on air quality pollution in Delhi NCR has erupted, the stubble burning issue is in the news. Stubble burning issue. This is the third time Supreme Court has said we should strictly punish those officers, district magistrates, lower officers who have been unable to control stubble burning in their areas. This creates a question: does the Constitution protect right to clean environment as a fundamental right? Yes, it does. Article 21, right to life and liberty, also includes the right to breathe clean and healthy air. This was ratified by Supreme Court in 1991, Subhash Kumar versus State of Bihar. Similarly, Article 48A, Directive Principles of State Policy, DPSP. Now, for all my students who are taking these sessions regularly, please remember important DPSP. If you struggle in learning all the DPSPs, let me know. Let's have a separate session on DPSP. Although we have many on our, YouTube channel, you can also see them. But if you really want a dedicated one, I can also do that for you. Please remember DPSPs, especially the important ones regarding women welfare, environment, wildlife, international relations. Like right now, 51. Article 51 is in news in India, big time. Investigate and you will come to know why. Okay. So now, Article 21, right to life and liberty, includes right to clean environment. Article 48A, DPSP. It's the duty of the government to protect the environment. Article 51AG, again DPSP, Directive Principle of State Policy. It is a duty of the Indian citizens to protect and to clean their natural environment. It is a heritage. Yes, Vikash, e-waste. We saw an article on e-waste 2-3 days before. India lacks protocols for electronic waste, correct. But the problem is, Constitution is protecting the right to a clean environment. Yes, very good, Vikash. Vikash already investigated. Article 51 is about international peace and creating security for everyone. It's about international relations. That's why it's in the news right now, because of India-US. Okay, very important. Well done. So now if your Constitution is protecting the right to clean environment as a fundamental right, then what paradox are we living in today? The paradox is that Supreme Court clearly says we will not allow post facto approval. Then what to do with buildings which are existing? Should we break them and create debris, pollution, displacement and take away the jobs of people? There is an ambiguity, lack of clarity. Why does the Supreme Court and the government only talks about Environmental Impact Assessment Notification Act 2006 when there are many other laws that are being broken in India? For example, Water Act 1974, Air Act 1981. Why don't we highlight these? There is so much water pollution that's being done by pharmaceutical industries, industrial manufacturing centers, warehouses. Nobody talks about them. Similarly, what about the Coastal Regulation Zone, CRZ Notification 2011, which is applying to all the projects that are being made in the coastal areas? In India right now, the Great Nicobar project is under so much contradiction and so much debate. What about such issues? If we are implementing the Environmental Impact Assessments 2006, then why don't we apply all the other protocols? So these are certain ambiguities that we are living with. And what to do with buildings that have been created already? That's the question that is still remaining. Now, quickly, the practice question with reference to Supreme Court 2025 judgment, which says we will not give any permission or license later on, post facto, to a project that has been created without taking permission because it's illegal. Look at the following statements. One, the court held that any project constructed without earlier clearance, environmental clearance under EIA notification 2006, cannot later be legalized through retrospective approval. Two, the verdict was delivered during Van Shakti versus Union of India case, in which Supreme Court supported National Green Tribunal's position that we will not give post facto retrospective clearance. Later on, we will not give you. And third, the court clarified that the ban on post facto clearances would automatically apply to projects governed under Coastal Regulation Zone to 2011, which deal with constructions near the coastal areas. Okay, so here, all right, Dipesh has answered, aspirant has answered, so has Rishi. That is so true, Rishi. We all break the laws. We just need to remember the important constitutional provisions. Very good. So, which would be the right answer? Should it be D or should it be A? Some confusion here. But majority of students, including Dipesh, Rishi, aspirant, everybody says that the answer is D. All three statements are correct. The first two are absolutely correct. What about the third one? Has the court said that the ban on post facto approval, automatically this applies in the case of coastal zones also? Let's wait and watch till the last slide whether D is correct or A is correct, because first two are absolutely correct. Slight confusion of responses in statement number 3. Now the next article, a quick read for prelims. You know that India had introduced a very important scheme called PM Kusum scheme. When was it launched? 2019, the PM Kusum scheme was launched. A very important scheme. GS paper 2, GS paper 3. Because PM Kusum scheme stood for Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthan Maha Abhiyan. What does it mean in English? It means we are creating a program to provide solar pumps, rooftop solar installations across various houses in the villages. The purpose is to allow these farmers to do irrigation in their lands by using solar powered pumps. No need to depend on grid electricity. No need to depend on coal, petrol, kerosene based pumps. Now you can use solar pumps, and the benefit is if you generate extra electricity with these solar pumps, you can sell it back to the government and get money for that. It's a very ambitious scheme. 2019 was when it was introduced, with a money of 34,000 crore rupees being invested into it. And today the Indian government has decided to expand the scheme to Africa as well. Several African countries will be supported by India in implementing the PM Kusum program. Ultimately, it is about giving solar pumps to 17.5 lakh people across Indian villages. 70% of the pumps have already been installed. The purpose is to move away from grid-based electricity to solar energy, so that not only you become clean, environmentally sustainable, farmers also learn how to practice irrigation by eco-friendly, climate-friendly methods, but also if you save electricity, the government will buy the extra units from you. So this scheme is now going to Africa. Do remember for prelims which countries were supported by India in PM Kusum? African countries. Okay. Now, which countries are these? As clarity comes, we will discuss the names also. Now, next is about social security schemes. The government has introduced a new policy for discussion in front of the public, and this is known as the Shram Shakti Niti. Niti means a scheme, a policy. Shram Shakti Niti. In English, what does it mean? Shram means labor. Shakti means power. Niti is a policy. So the power of labor policy, Shram Shakti policy. The government has created this under draft National Labour and Employment Policy for 2025. What is the purpose? To make India Viksit Bharat by 2047, by making sure that India's labour force is aligned with all the labor protection laws under ILO, International Labour Organization. You know that India is a key founding member of ILO from 1919 onwards, the agency of United Nations that works towards labor welfare across the world. ILO has total 8 conventions that are mandatory. India has signed only 6 out of them. Which 2 conventions have India not signed? That's a question I'm giving to you. If anybody is interested, you can investigate and let me know tomorrow. Which 2 conventions has India not signed? So this new Shram Shakti Niti has been promoted to create social security among Indian labor. It is quite similar to the social security code that was passed by the government in 2020. The purpose was to bring informal sector workers, GIG workers, and platform workers within the social security net, such as the Code of Wages, the Factories Act. Similarly, pension fund, provident fund, medical leave, all these to be extended to informal sector labor. Today, the new Shram Shakti Niti is the same. What will it do? It will integrate the existing employment guarantee schemes such as the Employees Provident Fund scheme, such as Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, Ayushman Bharat. It will also integrate other schemes like the e-Shram scheme, state welfare schemes. All of that will now become a universally same centralized portal database. So which means it is much easier for the government to identify the beneficiaries now. It also means that various workers in the informal sector will get health benefits, social security benefits. There is another target of this Shram Shakti Niti to create 35% participation of women in the labor force by 2030, but only in the formal labor. Because in the informal, there are already 42% women. So we want to include 35% females where? Labor force by 2030. We want to create business skills in our youth. We also want to create occupational safety protocols. Today in the newspaper, I thought of bringing that news for you, but then I did not get it because it was directly not relevant for UPSC. But it could be a great case study actually. I felt very bad when I read that. There is a factory somewhere today itself. Yesterday it caught fire. There was a kind of, I think, electricity outage problem or some kind of short circuit. So many workers lost their lives and many others are 90% burnt. Which factory was it? It was a firecracker making factory. Firecracker making factory. All these are informal sector companies. And you see what happens there. This is the 5th tragedy I have myself seen in the newspaper in the last, I think, 5 months. So these are case studies we can talk about. How informal sector workers are exposed to lack of occupational safety. It is a risk-based jobs that they do. So the government under Shram Shakti Niti is talking about creating AI-based safety protocols. We are trying to achieve a target of 0 accidents at workplace. Plus, reduce the number of informal sector jobs by bringing the informal sector within government regulation, taxation, social security benefit. Plus, certifications should be given easily at a single portal to the various medium small industries. Quickly the question. Yes, what exactly are we discussing? Levino. Eric says that sometimes for people who are not very comfortable with Hindi, schemes like Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya, PM Kusum, schemes like Shram Shakti, these names could be very tongue twisting for you, but it's okay. If you don't understand the meaning, I will explain you. Just learn the English abbreviation. Back in the mind, you should know what it stands for. Even if not in Hindi, you should know the English interpretation of that. Okay. Now consider the following statements regarding the draft National Labour and Employment Policy Shram Shakti Niti. You can remember the English name also, 25, Dipesh being the first one to answer. 1. The policy proposes a universal and portable social security system by integrating Employees Provident Fund, ESI, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, Ayushman Bharat, insurance card, e-Shram and other state welfare boards. 2. It aims to increase female labour force participation in the formal sector to 50% by 2030 and to formalize the informal jobs. And three, the implementation of the policy will be in three phases, including nationwide rollout of universal accounts, AI-enabled governance, real-time monitoring of how much has the scheme been implemented. Absolutely well answered there. Now, this is Dipesh, aspirant Rishi. Absolutely B is the right answer. 2 is not correct. Because under the Sham Shakti policy, the target is to create, yes, Rishi, absolutely dear. The target is to improve the participation of women in labor by 35%. 50% is too ambitious for a country like India right now. Last article. 2 days back, the Nobel Prize for Medicine, Physiology was declared. We discussed it has been given to scientists, 2 American and 1 Japanese, who have explored solution for autoimmune disorders by understanding the pattern of a cell called TREGs in the body. The next day, we discussed about quantum computing. How 3 scientists have received the Nobel Prize in Physics for understanding how to use quantum computing at a large scale by using semiconductors with some kind of an insulating material and creating a huge circuit, Josephson circuit. Today in the news once again is the Nobel Prize, but this time the Nobel Prize is across chemistry. So there are 3 scientists again, 1 Australian, 1 Japanese, 1 American. All 3 have received the Nobel Chemistry for 25. And why have they received it? They have received it because they have done a very groundbreaking work on metals and organic materials. That's why they got the prize. And these people are from Australia. There is a person called Richard Robson. From Japan, there is another scientist called Susumu Kitagawa. And then the third is American. He is Omai Yaghi. Okay, all these people have got the Nobel Chemistry Prize. Why? Because they have shown how there is a set of materials called metal organic frameworks. Metal organic frameworks. They have combined the nature of metallic and organic components. They have together created a mix that is very, very porous in nature, porous, absorbent in nature. They have seen how these materials called metallic organic framework, a mix between metals and a mix between organic materials. Result, metal organic framework, MOS. This has a unique property. One, it is very porous. It can absorb chemicals quickly. Second, it is very flexible. It can be used across various kind of manufacturing equipments. Third, it is extremely highly resistant. Okay, it has a very, very high surface area, extremely high internal surface area. All these properties make them perfect to be used where? To be used across semiconductors, to be used across controlling pollution, removing carbon and dangerous gases from the environment, at the same time clarifying water, plus a great storage capacity they have for methane, hydrogen, oxygen. So they can also be used to create green and clean energy, like various kind of electronic vehicles and solar cell batteries and all. For India, this could be a great achievement. Why? Because India already is working on few missions like the Semicon mission, Rare Earth and Critical Mineral Exploration mission. India also is working towards transitioning towards green, clean energy. So for India, it can be good because these materials that these 3 scientists have found together by mixing metals and organic compounds called MOF, metallic organic framework, because they are very porous and flexible, Indian government can use it to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. Indian government can use it to break down traces of antibiotic, medication, pharmaceutical pollution in the atmosphere. It can be used to remove contamination from water. Indian government can also use it to create moisture, some kind of water in desert and dry areas, because these MOFs, metal organic frameworks, can also extract water vapor from desert air in the night. This can be used by India to create more water for dry areas in the Thar desert. So India, definitely a country which is facing a problem of water management. And these can be used efficiently for that. India is one country that's battling with air pollution. We all know October has started, and people who are contributing from the NCR, the Delhi, they might be aware that very soon the smog problem might erupt. So, such technologies can go a long way in reducing the amount of toxicity, pollutants, microplastic, particulate matter from air. So, therefore, it could be a very groundbreaking research. It's very futuristic in nature. And India is one country which is also trying to become net carbon zero by 2070. So, we can use a lot from this. Plus, hydrogen storage is another thing that can go for clean and green energy transition. Okay, so that's it for the day. There is nothing else to discuss from the news. Yes, these are the answers. There was one answer that caused confusion. You can clarify it from here. If you want any detailed video on anything, then please do let me know, my dear. Yes, Dipesh, when I was talking about anti-immune, the solution against autoimmune disease discovered by Physiology Nobel Prize scientists for 2025. Yes, I was talking about TREGs, a series of T cells in the body which can be used to control autoimmune disease, and the main gene responsible behind that is FOXP3 gene. Very well said. Okay, so now we are done with the session. Thank you so much, everyone. Yes, Rishi, that's very nice of you. All right. Yes, absolutely. TREGs, quantum, and today we have the MOF, Metal Organic Framework for Chemistry. So in UPSC will not go further in detail, but for the prelims, just know the basics. Who got for what? Like Dipesha summarized really well. Yes, aspirant, absolutely, my dear. Chemistry, you should know. MOF. Biology, TREGs, FOXP3. Physics, quantum computer. That's okay. So now I take your leave. A quick reminder about the fast track batch sale. We are starting the batch from 17th October. Less than 10 days to go. And if you are appearing for UPSC 2026, time is less. So we are calling you the fast track batch because there is very little time. So allow us to guide you more professionally across various GS papers, optionals also. Across TSAT, across essay, across current affairs. You can enroll for this sale that begins only at 8,000. In fact, 7,999, lesser than 8,000 also. And how can you do that? By typing the codes live on your screen. Else, please fill up the form in the description box of this video, and somebody will reach out to you from our side. And then you can discuss about the course in thorough detail. Yes, it's a great opportunity because it's a morning batch is there, evening batch is there, weekend batch is there. Plus, it's in Hindi, English, and in English also. So whatever works for you, you can definitely apply for that. Okay, and if you want more details, do discuss with us. Thank you. God bless each one of you, my dear. See you tomorrow. Thank you, Levino. Thank you.